any platform should take anybody off. In particular, politicians, you don't take off because it gives people access to them. So I don't think that should be the case. I don't think what the reason they're saying why they took him off is actually the actual reason. I believe they wanted him off this platform for months, and the Capitol Hill thing just kind of fell in their lap, and they used it. So that's what I think about the Donald uh, Trump part of this. But censorship in censorship in general, when they say these are private companies, that's the problem. Once when news organizations use you as sources, you're no longer considered a private organization. Like when news organization breaks news through your platform, you're being used in a different way, and you should have uh, some sort of oversight. So rules apply. So there's different rules. It's more of an open public forum, and in an open public forum, people can say what they want to say.
Your
Right?
publisher.
Yeah, it is as simple as that. Like if you go on to msnbc.com and the articles and you look at the comments, people are saying all kind of stuff. They don't get censored and taken off or anything like that because they're just passing the information. And if you have your comments about it, you can comment what you want. It's a free country. It's free speech. But the problem with free speech, you also have the freedom.
And
He's
we
coming
oh,
back. There he
hey, all
is.
right, you're back. Back with CJ.
Yeah, so like I was saying, you have the problem with freedom is yeah, you have freedom, but you also have the freedom to what's the right word, tell the truth without being censored. You know what I mean? Like to categorize somebody making a threat, and that's the reason you took them off. So you deplatform them for making a threat. To taking somebody off because you say Joe Biden is a sexual predator. Like to me, that's not the same thing. That's not an egregious act. Like that is me. It's not really even an opinion. It's an empirical fact. But because they disagree with it, or their partners, their corporate partners disagree with it, you have to come off this platform. It is just bizarre to me that in America, no one thinks that that's bizarre. In America, where we claim this free speech, no one thinks that saying words gets you taken off is bizarre. It doesn't matter if it's your private platform. Like you're an American company, you're an American private platform, and you're telling me you don't believe in the same sort of things of free speech that the country you reside in is bizarre to me. And I'll pass it back.
Okay, let's go get Jackie in here. So, Jackie, what is your opinion on this case with Donald Trump versus Facebook and Instagram to try to get his account back after what happened in January 6th? And what is your opinion overall on media censorship?
Um, I when it comes to Trump specifically, I don't think he should have lost his account, especially since if they're like to me, it's the precedent that they showed. It was a power play. It was if we can take down the sitting president, we'll take down anybody. It's our platform. We do what we want. Do I think that they should be allowed to? Yes. Do I think it should go to the courts? No, because I do think it's a private platform. Um, but I think that they should follow their rules. Like they have the rules set up, and the rules say that you can't, dox, harass, incite violence, all of that. They also had the rule that said because of the First Amendment, he wasn't allowed to block anybody. And none of the Congress people are like no one in a government position is allowed to block someone. They can mute people, but they're not allowed to block anyone. And so I feel like they should have just followed those rules and like let's face it, what they took him down for, they said that he was inciting violence by encouraging people to do, the Capitol skirmish on the 6th. But he did that on the rate. He did that on like live. He did that he didn't do it through tweets. He did that through the airways, which he still had access to as president of the United States. So what did they really take him down for? So to me, like, it was a bunch of liberals that were pissed off and they were like, you better do something. And then they were like, okay, fine. And they took it down and they realized that, yeah, if we take down the president, that shows that we have the ultimate power. I think that since things like Twitter and Discord, they have become like a public utility. So if we really want it to be something where like you can go to the courts for something like that, then you would have to you would have to basically nationalize it. And these companies are not they're not looking for that because that would take away their profits. So and then the biggest problem to me with these corporations, these companies, is that it's not whether or not they dox you or not dox you, but like whether or not they shadow ban you or remove your platform. To me, the biggest problem is the fact that they have everything on you. If you watch movies as I do, like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, people were talking about or in the movie they talked about how Hydra had your files. Essentially, all you really need is either someone's Google or social media, and you know anything and everything about them. Google has your information if you do a 23andMe, so they can even have your DNA. So to me, that's far more disturbing than whether or not you get shadow banned or have your platform taken away.
Let me add
Perfect.
this to the discussion, and we throw Rome into this because I just want to add a little bit of context here. Because the Intercept run the story, and it's kind of back up what I was saying. If you're on the left, you should never support social media power grabs. I mean, what the solution to that? We gotta nationalize these companies, break them up. There's a few solutions, but this report from the Intercept from October, where they announced they're gonna take down white supremacist and anarchist pages. You see what they did there? They group anarchists and they group white supremacists together. And when they did that, they took down a lot of anti-fascist news and resource sites. Like there was a lot of Antifa pages taken down. It's Going Down was a page that was a big anti-war page that was taken down. Crime Thinstic, I think I'm saying that right, was a giant page that documented a lot of the police brutality pages. And not only that, like this came from just January 2021. Facebook purges left-wing pages and individuals. And then I'll pass it to Rome here very quickly. It said Facebook carried out a purge of left-wing, anti-war, and progressive pages and accounts, including leading members of the Socialist Equality Party. Facebook gave no explanation why the accounts were disabled or even public acknowledgement that the deletions had occurred. So with that said, do you guys really want to give these super rich capitalist oligarchs the decision to just take down left-wing pages like that because you got Trump derangement syndrome? Do you think that's really a smart? Go ahead, Ron.
Back in, I think this is 2018. I believe they did a story on Facebook. They was hiring white supremacists and white guys that was in these, terrorist organizations, basically. So when black people start seeing their pages start disappearing and people just getting some reported from 5 years ago and they get your page and they take away your page from it. So they did an investigation and found out that Mark Zuckerberg, it was a wing of his network, and they was just hiring all types of white supremacists. And if you look at what's happening now, it all falls into play. These white supremacists run these pages, run Facebook, and then they take down people like us. Like they're not gonna really take down white supremacists pages. That's just to make it seem like, oh, we're trying to do left and right because we're balanced. Like no, y'all gonna take us down because I have yet to see, like, even like on Twitter, they took down some of them pages, but all that overall, all that Trump shit, I think the people at the top want Trump to just shut up for a minute so they can rehabilitate him. So when Joe Biden done fucking up the war, he can come in and people will be begging for him to run again. But that's what I personally think all that shit was about. But yeah, Facebook is run by white supremacists all day.
Yeah, and there's a good comment here that from Rabbit Fufu on YouTube that pretty much outlines that perfectly. They're not going to take down pro Biden pages. anyone who repeat the pro-war talking points that come out of the Biden administration, anyone who puts the coup in Venezuela, for example, they're not going to have their Facebook page taken down. So that's a very important context I want you guys to understand. But I'll pass it back to RJ.
Yeah, so my take on this in general is there's two dynamics. So the current dynamic right now is that these different social media platforms, they're a private company. And so by them being a private company, they have a platform in which they have a model in which they use advertisements to make money. And so if you say something or do something on their platform that they deem is inappropriate, you get strikes, you get warnings, and then or sometimes if it's really egregious, you'll be removed from the platform. And so, of course, there are laws put in place. Now, I mean, a private corporation can't really do everything they want. So there are some laws that are put in place. But we don't really talk enough about the type of laws that are put in place and how really faulty they are and allows these companies to get away with this. You know, social media platforms are publishers. They don't actually write the material because if they did, you could sue them. They're just saying, hey, they're like a bookstore. We sell the books, so don't sue us if there's a problem with the book. You go after really the publisher. And so that's what these social media platforms are. They're just platforms, right? And so the two arguments that I'm talking about is that if you want to transform these platforms from a private entity to a public entity, then you can make them more accountable by the courts. Because how it goes right now is if you want to change these laws, it's going to be more of a compromise that, okay, the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, as long as you don't do these things, then we'll lay off, right? But if you make it more of a public entity, you can make it more accountable. You could change these type of laws. You can really make sure that your content, your user data isn't used for profitization at your expense, right? And so in general, overall, my opinion on this is that whether it's private or public, the courts should have a say, like, because it should be held accountable. There has to be some accountability somewhere, because we know that these type of things that's going on, like with Facebook, their department in which they look over to see whose ban should be upheld, who should be removed. That's going to be very partisan. I mean, these social media companies, they have enjoyed Donald Trump off of social media, so that's just my opinion on that. And I do want to transition into one topic I'm going to make up off the fly.
RJ, we need JB to chime in.
Oh, JB, my fault. See, I messed up. JB, JB. So, what's your opinion on really social media censorship overall, and the case with Donald Trump against Facebook and against Instagram?
If they come after the right, they will come after the left. In fact, they will come after the left quicker than they will after the right. Because remember, we live in a very the oppressive powers are deeply right-wing and authoritarian. And those of us who are left-wing and anti-authoritarian, they see us as a nuisance that they will come after us. On top of that, these corporations, as RJ so eloquently said, they are capitalistic corporations that get their money through advertisers. So with that being said, our interests are antithetical to their interests, so therefore they see us as a threat. So when it comes to censorship, yes, they are a private entity. I personally think that there should be a public square that is nationalized so that people can actually have a conversation online, and people should be able to be held accountable. And it should also be done on a case-by-case basis, because once you start doing things like algorithms, hello YouTube, then these things, then sometimes you end up doing blanket ejections based on something that you lack context about. So we could be talking about anything involving white supremacist terrorism, but because we have that word terrorism in there, they flag us and they say, "Oh, we have to take your monetization away, and we also have to shadow ban or hide your content." So the thing is they blanket that because their interest, in wanting to keep the corporate powers at peace, they end up, putting us on the chopping block. But at the same time, because they're not doing it on a case by case basis, then they end up throwing out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. So this is one of the reasons why I think that we should also have a public forum, because then it can be done by a case by case basis. And I think that, somebody like Donald Trump, like Jackie said, what Donald Trump said to ignite the insurrection was during a rally before the insurrection happened. It was not on Twitter. So why did they really ban Donald Trump? It was more or less Donald Trump was the boogeyman and we were the target. He was just an excuse. So therefore, I see Donald Trump as just an excuse to come after the left, because ultimately they don't really care about what Donald Trump says. I mean, he ruffles their feathers, but they don't really care. What they care is about the people who actually threaten their power.
Great points, JB. We appreciate your eloquent commentary and insight. I do want to get Rome in here, and I'll give you an intro before you go, Rome. So most people who know FHL and know Rome on Twitter, Rome does a lot of organizing work across the country. That's what he's been doing the last couple of weeks, which is why you haven't been seeing him as much. He's been out there feeding the homeless, feeding people, clothing the homeless, doing a lot of grassroots type of work. We often name him the roaming communist, get that, because he's out there a lot so many times. So, Rome, I wanted you to give everyone really a story about you converting people to the left and the type of work you've been doing across the country these last couple of weeks.
I mean, man, I don't even know where the hell to start. I've been talking to all different types of people. Like, I've been talking to Haitian blacks for the first time in my life. Well, I've seen them before, but I actually get to talk to them and see what the neighborhoods are like. And it's like everybody around here are already like just socialists by nature. And when I actually put a name to it, they be like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess we are." I even did my auntie block. Talking to the neighbors, telling them about the giveaway that I got going on, and trying to make sure that black people don't fall into that spider web of black capitalism, because yeah, that's some bullshit. And it's a couple of black capitalists around here that I have talked to. I only cracked through one of them, because he's a Jamaican. I cracked through him yesterday. It took about like 30, 45 minutes. He a millionaire, so to say, but he's still broke. Like, you're not a 1%er. You just a nigga with some money. So, you can still, use this to build on, you know what I'm saying? Help your people and whatnot. Like, all that shit, all you doing is stepping on these workers' backs while you get richer. Like, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna be good in the end, man. Like, there's always gonna be somebody that's gonna come back. Like, why do you wonder why niggas get killed when they come back to the hood? After you done made it? Because it's nothing here for us, and you done made it, but didn't come back with your resources or any connections or anything. You just came back to stun on us. So now we're gonna take your shit. So it's sad to say, but it all comes back full circle, man. And if you are, stepping on your workers' backs, they are going to remember this. They're going to remember the times they worked with you, work for you without checks, or work for you cutting their checks, and you having a nice car and a nice crib and shit like that. it took a minute to get to him, but as far as overall, it has been good. I talked to a bunch of homeless people, trying to basically unionize the homeless out here, trying to make sure that they all get together and show them, uh, just socialist ways that they can work together. Because I done seen some homeless people with wads of money. I'm like, man, you really should invest that into your people, like for real. He like, what you mean? Like, man, these niggas don't want to do nothing, blah blah. I'm like, shit, niggas can say the same thing about you and me. You don't know that until you go try. So, I was talking to this one cat about investing in a lawnmower and a little pulley thing like that, a little pulley trailer. Whatnot. He got him a lawnmower. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, look, this how you finesse your way into some money, even if they don't need their grass cut. It's something that, what I'm saying, you can always, you know. But it's been a journey, man. It's been a journey. But shit don't stop here. I gotta do Ohio right after this motherfucker. So yeah.
Great thoughts, Ron. We always appreciate what you're doing across the country, type of work you're doing, bringing people not only to the left, but really helping out working class Americans. I think a lot of times we focus too much on how to convert people and not enough on how we can help people with their material conditions first. Because if we do that in tandem and do what you're doing first, Rome, that's how we get people not only to come to the left, but stay there permanently.
Yeah.
Notice the difference. You turn people more on an ideological boundary. You sometimes you can get them to stay there temporary, but you can help someone's material conditions and help their lives so they can help their family and themselves in the future. You got them to the left for life. So we really appreciate what you're doing, Rome.
Hey,
The last. Oh, go ahead,
RJ.
JB.
Just want to add to your point. Somebody made a tweet, and I forgot who, so I wish I can give him the credit. But he said the quote should be, not if you feed a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man a fish, you feed him for a lifetime. No, it should be, you feed a man a fish for a day, and you teach that man to fish for a lifetime. So that's basically one of the examples that Rome is setting. Which number one, I clap it up for Rome because I'm so proud of him for actually showing us and teaching a lot of us and our followers of how it should be done. And the thing is that this is a great model for all of us to follow. And it doesn't have to be as extensive at what Rome is doing, but even just in little everyday things and how we treat people when we're out or when we're talking to family members. Because being a leftist, being a socialist or communist and an anarchist is not just a belief system, it is a way of life and how you treat others. And so this is one of the things that I wanted to direct some attention to, and I appreciate this example that's being set.
Right, and one more thing, like Rome said, if you don't even have money, it's not just about the money. If you have connections, help a brother out, help a man out. Connections are everything. In fact, connections are often more important than the degree itself you get. Because if you have a degree, but if you have no connections, how can you talk to people about going up the food chain to get those opportunities? Right. And since this is a great discussion we're having on, I'd be stupid to leave it. So I want to get everyone's opinions on what Rome is doing and really how the left should work with working class people to convert them, but also to keep them. So let's get Jackie here first, and we'll get Nick, and then we'll get CJ.
Always go to me when I'm in the middle of sending something. um, so I think what he's doing is awesome, and I agree that we should be doing exactly that, not just to bring people to the left, but just because it's the right thing to do to help people. And like JB said, you don't just give them some money or feed them for right now, but teach them how to I'm going to cut myself off because I feel like there are a lot of people that assume that being homeless means you're absolutely penniless. And that's not the case, especially after COVID. There are a lot of people who have jobs who just couldn't afford to pay their rent and got evicted. So some of them may have cars, some of them have a lot of stuff. There are people who live out of storage facilities. So the problem of homelessness is not that those people have absolutely no money. Oftentimes they don't have enough money.
There we go.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that. So if we can come together and not only help each other financially or in any way necessary, because there are other ways to help people. You don't have to necessarily give them food or supplies. Sometimes people, like I said, they have jobs, they just don't have babysitting. Like maybe that's why they lost their house, because they need two jobs, because heaven forbid anybody have a living wage in this country. So there are people who need two or three jobs, but they can't possibly do it because there's nobody to watch their kids if they're a single parent. So if you could just help them watch their kids so that they could go to work, or if you could, if you know how to cook and you have a little bit of extra, give them some food because the mom may not have time to cook, or maybe the dad isn't home to cook. So there are ways that we can help each other. And um sorry, Ace. There are ways that we can help each other, and it doesn't have to be monetarily. So if you don't have money, don't think you can't help people. You can help however you can. So I think that Rome is leading the way and showing exactly how to help people. Rome didn't do this all with his own money. He got
Hell no.
he got fun, like he did crowdfunding to do this. So if you can only give $1, but we get 10,000 people to give $1, that's $10,000. We can help a lot of people. So I think that we're not thinking small enough into what we can contribute, and we're not thinking big enough as to what a coalition can build.
Yes.
Right. Nick, let's get your thoughts. So, what's your thoughts on the type of work Rome is doing? And overall, how can it be a guide and a model for what the left should do in the future?
That's the work Rome is doing exactly what we should strive for. People, I mean, I guess I am kind of negative because people ask me like, what do you think the future of the progressive left and the working classes? I don't have a positive answer for you. I'm sorry. Like, there's a reason why I quit my job to canvass for Bernie Sanders, not because I thought everything would change. Because if Bernie won, I made that sacrifice. I'm like, this is the only chance we have. Like, if Bernie doesn't win, we're absolutely screwed electorally and in terms of national politics. So that's our reality now. So what can we do to make life better for ourselves? We have to. I explained this a little bit on our last show. You got to reject the capitalist mindset of way of living.
Yep.
So not everyone can do what Rome does. Like, Rome is a very charismatic leader. He's willing to put himself out there. There's a lot of people that suffer from anxiety and they just can't do stuff like that. We gotta have respect for our brothers and sisters who can't do that. So what can you do? I mean, making life better for your neighbors in itself, it says a ton. Rejecting the capitalist way of living, being nice to the service worker, tipping them a little extra if you had to. Mm-hmm. And I explained earlier how becoming anti-capitalist and becoming a socialist, that made me a better person. Like, legitimately, I never was one of those people who snapped at customer service workers. But not only do I not snap at customer service workers, I literally do everything I can to make their experience and their time at work much more enjoyable. Like, whenever I see people yelling at customer service, it makes my skin crawl. I talk to them very nicely. I compliment them. And these are the kind of things that, as a socialist, I know to do because I'm class conscious. I understand the struggles that the workers are going through. So we are strong advocates of mutual aid. And once again, I was in the streets talking to people, and COVID slowed it down, and I had a lot of personal issues. But this is something I want to do throughout later this year. Me and Rome, I even hook up. We talked about it on the phone before, how we're going to do a lot of projects, and that's something I plan on doing. But if you're not able to do that, just live as a socialist, live as an anti-capitalist, help your neighbors out. This is, like I explained earlier before, because there's a little bit of dialogue on the nuclear family on Twitter, and it kind of lays on to what I'm talking about. The whole idea of the nuclear family, just for example, was a capitalist construct because they wanted to sell homes. So they sold the idea that you better off live on your own, raise your own family, because that was a mechanism of selling homes. Now, I have my cousin who's living in my basement right now, and that's not the first time we did that. I mean, I have friends who otherwise would have nowhere else to live. But I'm like, nah, as long as I have a place you can sleep at, me and my brother, we always done that. We always give people a home. Like, I had my sister and I had my niece living here last fall. I don't talk about this kind of stuff, but I think it's relevant to the subject at hand. So what I'm saying is, offer that courtesy to a neighbor you know. Like, how are you a socialist if you really don't know your neighbors, if you don't have any connection to your community? So I just wanted to spin that way because we all praise what Rome is doing because it's amazing, but not everyone can do that. So look at other anti-capitalist alternatives that you have that can make people's lives better.
Perfect response. Perfect answer. Let's get CJ in here. CJ, what's your opinion on the work Rome is doing across the country, feeding the poor, clothing the poor, and how do you think? And is this the type of model the left should go moving forward? Not only to keep people on the left, but just to help out the fellow man in general. So, what's your thoughts?
Really quick, I want to say thank you to Julie for the Cronkite Award. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. I certainly think that there's aspects of community work.
Gosh, up, CJ's back.
He just drops for a second. Just let him come back.
Yeah,
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there you go. You have to start over.
Okay, so I certainly think there's aspects of community work, and I apologize, my computer is running really hot, and that's why it keeps going out. There's certain aspects of a community organizing, community feeding, community health that can be absolutely used as a strategy when you're trying to educate people, is how I would describe it. Educate them, spread the word about socialism, spread the word about capitalism. I find that you talking to people using regular language is how you reach them the quickest. So you don't talk about how awful capitalism is by talking about capitalism. You say, you know, how much you paying rent? Are you making ends meet? Oh, how much are you really short every year, every month? Like if you had, how much money would make your life better every month? Oh, this amount. Okay. So that means your job is not paying that. If your job was paying this, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of how you talk about the definition, if you will, without speaking the word, if that makes sense. You talk about all the issues and connect them. You'd be surprised how many people don't connect all the issues they're having in their lives to capitalism. Like you'd be surprised how that's disconnected, how people don't think that the reason I can't go on vacation or I haven't went to the doctor is because I'm not being paid more, because wages are being suppressed by the very company that I'm working for. You get what I'm saying? Like, so they have the ends, they just don't have the middle part to connect it. And I think using that strategy, similar to what I said about the general strike, it's really campaigning. You're campaigning to convince people. You're campaigning. Is door-to-door campaigning. Like, hey, or doing what Rome is doing, where you're having a food giveaway, and during the food giveaway, you're talking to people. You have literature to pass out about this is why you're in this situation. Don't think this is your fault. People internalize being poor. And I know that because I've lived in people internalize, and it's by design. Society, it wants you to feel like it's your fault you're not making and not the system. So if you reach people there where you say you're not being able to pay rent is not your fault, and let me explain how the system is putting you in this position. I think that is a way to reach people. Yes, it takes a while, but this work that has to be done, this education has to be done this way. It's just simply, there's no shortcuts to it. So I'll pass it back to you guys.
Yeah, I admire Rome for what he's doing and for the work that he's doing. I mean, he's following the rich history of what really prior past leaders have done to not only help out their better man, to create a community effect as well. And I think this is kind of the motto in which the left should go moving forward. And the reason why I say that is because now I finally get it when people have said they've divested from electoral politics. I think this is the interpretation people get from it. You focus on your community. You do mutual aid. You help each other out. You talk to neighbors door by door. Yes, local electoral politics still works. It's still relevant. Yes, statewide. But if we have our own personal safety nets, not the ones that the government give us set in place, because those can't be taken away from us. They can take it away from them by just a snap of a finger by voting. They can even leave you out. And we've seen that with COVID, how we have to beg for scraps. So if we can help each other have our own community, our own safety net, then when something breaks down, we can stick with each other. Then we could have a general strike. Then we can fight against the big capitalist machine and not worry about, oh, if I lose my job, I lose my health care, I can't pay for a babysitter, I have student loan debt, the government's come after me for it. I believe if we continue to do that, that's what it means to be divested from electoral politics and working on and organizing. It's not just about organizing to get a politician in office. It's really organizing to really increase more people in the pot for help. Because if we all chip in something in, it doesn't all have to be the same amount. You give what you want, you give what you can. And it's also, too, not just about money. I mean, the Black community in general has a rich history,
Yes.
Especially in the summer. Like in the summertime, a whole lot of Black people come together. Hey, you got some ribs, you got some corn, pop it on the grill. We can all have a good, fun time. And it's actually way cheaper to do that if everybody puts something in a pot. So it's not just about money. It's about, hey, how can you entertain yourself? If you have a friend who needs a wedding or something, hey, you can have it in the backyard. We'll bring this. I'll bake a cake. I'll do this. I think if we just go back to that's been working instead of this new neoliberal trick, thinking that electoral politics in general is going to save us and, let the important and professional people take care of it. No, it's about your communities. It's about families. And it's about your friends, because friends are family too. Let's not get that mixed. Let's not get that messed up. Friends are family as well. So if we all stick together and we all work together, I think that'll be beautiful. And I do want to thank you guys for watching. We have reached the end of our topics, but we do want to give everyone else an opportunity to really talk about what they're doing in the next week and any type of important interviews, any type of work to do with FHL. So Nick, we'll have you go first.
Hold on. There's one question from the chat that I want to ask.
Okay, go ahead.
Luke Welling asked, how do we work to get Black home ownership up?
That is way too much involved. It starts with funding schools. That's where it starts. Because in order to get home ownership up, you have to have people have the right education who can go along through life and get the right job. And it starts at birth. It starts with education. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get home ownership of Black people who are being oppressed right now. That has to be fixed first. So so that's my take on it.
It involves actually getting people to have a living wage or a thriving wage regularly. Because really, if you can work, you deserve a living wage. Period. Point blank. End of story.
Without inflation.
Yeah, without inflation. So if you get to the point where you have a living wage, that means you can afford a home. And so if you're not willing, if people have a system where they deny people a living wage, they can't have a home. So therefore, that's the one of I think the stepping stones that we should have.
Let me add this, and I didn't mention this before, and I should, because it gives a wrong impression. I don't even believe that home ownership should be a goal. I think that's home ownership. Buying a home is a product that was created for banks to give money to.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
We should be looking to do community.
Right.
Damn it, Jay.
He's coming back.
He's coming back, y'all.
Mm-hmm. That point was fire. I like it.
But that was what CJ was saying was my first reaction when I heard the question. I'm like, that shouldn't be our goal. But I hear. I'm not trying to diss the person who asked the question. But that should be our goal. But sorry, go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of pretty much said what I was going to say, and that's just basically that's one of the what we've been sold along with the American dream. You got the white picket fence. That's literally executives came up with an idea. How do we loan more money to people? And they came up with this American dream. Let's make the house. That's literally how this came up, and now it's so interwoven into our society that somehow everybody's goal is to buy a house, and it's preposterous. You can't take a house with you to the grave. I mean, it's and it's so overpriced. It's no home is
I do have thoughts on that though, because I
absolutely.
go ahead.
Absolutely, it's so and it's so overpriced. I mean, just take California. In my opinion, there's no home that's worth of over $500,000. I'm talking about these $1 million homes. They're overpriced, just like with everything else in capitalism. And I'll pass it to Jackie for her comment.
Um, I agree with what you guys are saying, like why home ownership has been brought into, why it's the American dream, why it's the goal. But I believe that at least this is my view of maybe why he asked the question, because home ownership was the only black wealth that there really was for the middle class. And like CJ said, you can't, when you die, you can't take your house with you. No, but you can give it to your children. And then you can make sure that your children have a house and your grandchildren have a house. And if you fall on hard times, like that statistic that, most Americans, what is it, like 60% of Americans can't make, like, there's no way that they can get through a $1,000 emergency. Before, like, if you were a homeowner, you could borrow against your house if you had an emergency like that. Like, if somebody, if you had an accident or somebody goes to the hospital or something, if you're a homeowner, you can borrow against the house. If you're a renter, you're SOL. So I think that may be why he asked the question. I don't think it's necessarily more to promote capitalism, but in being a homeowner, there are benefits. And then through Obama, that's where the generational wealth was largely lost for black people, because he bailed out the banks and not the people. And that's when a majority of the black wealth disappeared, because they lost their homes. So now they have nothing to fall back on.
All right, I'll
So I
go
think
last.
that's why he asked that question.
I'll go last. So anybody else want to take a shot at this?
I mean, uh, go ahead, RJ. I wanted to cover this story, this bombshell story about police literally violating international law. But I said I'll
Oh, go
cover
ahead.
it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna do a longer segment on this because this is truly a bombshell, and they're not getting coverage. I read through this. I'm gonna be very fast because we only have 15 minutes. I'm literally like, this is so important. I literally might just make another video. I thought we had a little more time, but our conversations go. So the ICC put a probe together, and this is very well detailed. I tweeted about it and I looked into it more because there's a lot of information. There's like I swear to God, I'm gonna take my time and read like the 122 pages they wrote on this. This is probably the most comprehensive breakdown and analysis of police culture in America I've ever seen, and I looked at a lot of them. So I'm not going to share it because I don't want to mess anything up, and we're near the end anyway. I kind of just read shortly over. So what they did, they took 12 commissioners, 12 experts from different countries. So they were looking at people with different backgrounds, and they all doctors, human rights activists. They're top of the field when it comes to human rights and analyzing police culture. And what they found is that the American police, they are literally violating international law, and they are violating human rights on an insane scale. And not only that, this commit, like, I was just looking through this. Like, I'm trying to be fast here, but there's unbelievable documentation on this, and this is so important. I think every leftist should have this shit bookmarked because it's so well detailed. They go through almost every single legitimate, well, not I won't say legitimate in the wrong word, like all the big cases of police violence, and they come to this conclusion that the police is literally taking our Fourth Amendment rights. And for example, they have all these lists of things that happen. I'll read just a few of them because we don't have a ton of time. But this is one. There's a few just stuck out of my head. They said they concluded that Fourth Amendment violations led to the use of excessive force and police killings of black people. Breonna Taylor was killed following the execution of a no-knock warrant after a judge replaced it with a knock warrant. So I say that because there's so many examples. Could they well source this out? Another one that just stand out to you now. Lethal police violence against black people experiencing a mental health crisis is systematic. After Daniel Cruz's family called the police to provide mental health assistance, he walked naked in the street. The officer then put a spit hood over his head after he began spitting, and they held him down on the pavement for 2 minutes and 15 seconds where he stopped breathing. The only reason I'm bringing this up because I want to outline, because we don't have a ton of time, they give a ton of examples in this commission report. And this commission report was done over a period of like 8 weeks. They had relatives from George Floyd. They had a lot of different people who were victims of police violence. They had police whistleblowers that was part of the system. And a lot of these police whistleblowers literally acknowledged during this hearing, like, yeah, this is systematic and there's no such thing as a bad apple. I'm trying to see if I can get to the least of bad apple part. Trying to do this really fast. This is the part where they say not just a few bad apples. The commissioner found that contrary to the popular notion that unjustified killings of black people by police are merely the actions of few bad apples, the real problem is structural racism that is embedded in the U.S. legal and policing systems. And colleague Flanagan, I destroyed that, but she testified there, and she kind of breaks that down as well. The reason I outlined it because the conclusion that these non-biased international sources laid out, like these are what we usually use to justify regime change in other countries. Once again, I think like I was doing a really fast breakdown of this, but this is so well documented that I'm actually literally going to do like another 30, 45 minutes so we can break it down in great detail. I at least want to bring that up here, but this is the documentation we need. That's why I wanted to bring up this live. I think A1 should have this bookmark because not only does they explain why our American police is broken, it is covered by multiple examples. And this is why this is kind of wrap up what RJ wanted me to discuss at the end here. This is why police abolition is like Medicare for all, police abolition. They were probably my two biggest issues right now. Easily my two. And police abolition, defund the police is a policy you can advance without being too engaged in electoralism because there are a lot of people locally and a lot of different local areas. I'm gonna cover this as well because there's a lot of different examples that are pushing to defund the police. Let me see if I can find a quick example real quick. I just was reading about this today. So Phoenix City, this just came for today. Protesters called to defund the police at Phoenix City because they have a council that discussing budgets. And if you search the news, there are a lot of organizations that do this on a local level. So this report and the crimes against humanity as they laid out, like I said, the headline says the police treatment of black people constitutes a crime against humanity. And I'm gonna end it with this. Remember who the police trained with? Like American police trained with Israeli forces. This is connected on the international level. We see what happened in Colombia right now, where the neoliberal fascist regime that Biden is backing, they are killing protesters in the streets. So this is something that leftists need to stop being weak on. This can't be one of them things that, it's another issue that's decently important. Medicare for all, minimum wage, those are important issues. But then you got the police out. No, that's need to be as important as Medicare for all $15 minimum wage. Because if this report was in any other country, we would use this to justify regime change. But sorry, I went on my little tangent because I'm gonna do another breakdown video. I may upload on the FHL YouTube channel as a standalone video because I find as someone who's passionate about this issue, this is very, very interesting stuff, and I'm actually very impressed at how documented it is. Like, there's no liberal who can read this and still advocate for funding these costs more. If they are, you can't even pretend they're allies. But do anyone got any? I know we're nearing the end, so sorry. While
you're at it, just tell us what's coming up for you for what you're doing on your show.
Oh yeah, stay tuned because me and CJ will be talking to Justin Jackson very, very shortly. So that's the only thing I want to say right now because I already went really long. So stay tuned. Me and CJ will be talking to Justin Jackson in about 70 minutes or so.
CJ, what about you? What's going up with you for your show and what you're doing for FHL?
Yeah, the Compton J Show has been rebranded to Straight Out of Politics. That's the new name. And for our second episode, we are going to have Justin Jackson today. Nick will be guest co-hosting for this one. It should be a very, very good conversation. And today's topic will be America, the failed state. So just talking about America as a failing or failed state is what the topic will be today. And then what I have coming up is What else do I have coming up here? I think that that's next week. I have interview. I think I mentioned it last episode with.
He's coming back.
Always while he's talking.
Always while he's talking.
There you go.
He'd be sitting there chilling.
Yeah. But that was the last thing. I'm having an interview with Monica Black, Bernie Babe, next week, and that's all I got for me.
Okay, JB, what's going on with you for your show and for FHL in general?
For my show Sunday, live at 1 p.m., I will be interviewing Richard Meadhurst. This will be a great topic of discussion. We'll most likely be talking about foreign policy, which is something that affects all of us here in the United States. Also, I will be on the show with Jackie Bouvier, and we will be talking various news topics. And I forget the name of the show. I apologize.
Is it the Populous Voice?
No, well, it's on the Populous Voice Network.
Oh, the happy hour. You talking
The
about
happy hour?
Yeah, happy hour.
Yes, the happy hour. So we'll be talking about that, and you may see me get a little lit. So stay tuned. Just letting you know. So that'll be next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time.
Perfect. Rome, tell us about what you're doing with your trip. Is it finished? You got more work to do? And overall for FHO, just tell us what you're going to be doing next.
Man, I don't think I'm going to never. I don't think I can never stop. I'm gonna try to touch every state, if not at least half of them. But for you know what I'm saying, for him to left this, I ain't doing shit. No, I am a little lazy. I've been lazy because I've been out here doing the shit. But I do gotta. I'm trying to get that interview with Rose locked down. I think that's about it. I've been working on interviews. I haven't been on my shit. I apologize about that, but I am gonna go live probably later on tonight, and we're gonna run it over to Fred Hampton Leftist. So, and we're gonna rebrand my little show to I believe Rome's Rebellion or something like that. So we're gonna I'm in the works. Just give me some time. I'm tired, motherfucker, but just give me some time, and I'm gonna get it together.
And Jackie, so
We forgot to mention me and Rome. We're also
working on left. Yeah,
we're also working on a show called "The Hood Is Left" with Rome. What's the felon Mike on Twitter? Non-voting felon. Non-voting felon. Rome and I are working on a podcast show called "The Hood Is Left," and it's just going to be gritty, converting like hood people to leftism, gangbangers, ex-cons, ex-felons, talking to those people, talking about their stories, and it's called "The Hood Is Left."
perfect. And Jackie, so tell us what's going on with your show, Nerdolitics, and who you're bringing on.
So I have Nerdolitics, and then I have interviews that I do with people that are not Nerdolitics. Some of the interviews that are going to be coming out soon from me that are not Nerdolitics are that very same person, Michael Tanivasa, the non-voting felon. He is one of the first people that I interviewed. I also have an interview with Lee Camp. You and I recently recorded an interview with Professor Wolf. I also have an interview with activist and artist Eleanor Goldfield. And Nerdolitics just released our podcast with Ryan Knight. That one was talking Star Wars. The next one to come out is going to be with Ashley Stevens, and she and I are talking the X-Men and mutants and all kinds of fun things with political spins. Monday, we are Meg and I are doing our show. We're doing the Road to Falcon and Winter Soldier, and this week we are talking Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So watch that movie. Talking to you, RJ, and then you can come and see it.
Perfect. As for me, I'm going to have two exciting guests I'm going to have on soon. We just got to get the details finalized. Who's a former guest on Nick's old show, the Progressive Martial Artist Show. And I'm going to have a guest on that's one of my biggest admirers who really taught me a lot about ideology from the left. I have a pre-recording of him on soon. And I do want to thank one of our watchers from YouTube. His YouTube name is The Ruling Class Strategy of Divide and Conquer. He's the one who gave me my new name for my show, which is Revolutionary Jargon. You could check that out, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8. And while I'm at it, I am looking for 2 guests for Friday's show. I am doing a panel format. Our first guest, which is locked in, is John Maurice on Twitter. He'll be joining me to talk about healthcare. We'll be talking about censorship and many other different topics. So if you're interested, DM me a topic you want to talk about. We'll discuss it. And the first 2 really that hit me up gets it. So that's all I have. And with that, I do want to thank all.
Discord.
Right. Sorry. So for everyone who is on Patreon, we do have a Discord. So if you haven't checked in a while, check it. Click the link. You should be able to join our Discord. I basically created like 100 channels so everyone can have a conversation and talk and debate. So it's like our own little commune. And I do want to thank everyone for watching our network. This is our 1-month anniversary. So thank you for watching, and we're going to keep pushing.
Yes. And I will say one last thing as well. We decided to change our Patreon tiers. At first, we had like this, and this, and we were just way too busy to be able to give you guys what we think that that you deserved. So, us being socialist, we changed it so that all of the Patreon tiers are the same, and we appreciate anything you can give. We've added tiers, so there are different levels, and anything that you guys choose to give us to help us to continue to do this, like for example, buying a camera or a laptop for somebody so that our streams can go work a little better, we greatly appreciate it. And we don't have a paywall. All of our content is free. Sometimes some of our content gets taken down, and that would be up on Patreon just because like YouTube doesn't like certain things and Facebook doesn't like a lot of things. So whenever we can, we will post that content to the Patreon. It'll live there forever, so you guys can see that. And basically, just thank you for everybody who has contributed. Thanks to the people who contributed to our HAPS show today. And you guys are awesome.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for watching the FHL Network. This is our FHL Group